Now, dear students, let us also talk about the different categories of tests. There are different kinds of tests, like for example, achievement, attainment, and progress test. You can take it down somewhere so that you do not forget. Okay, achievement, attainment, and progress test. These tests are given to find out how well a student has done since a certain date or a certain period of time. It helps in determining the effectiveness of teaching and tells that how much that has been taught has really been learned. So the way the title of the test goes, or the heading of the test goes, achievement, attainment, and progress. So what do we test? We test the attainment, the progress that a candidate, that a student has made, and they also indicate past success or failure in learning and handling the material. Suppose I have completed my lecture on vowel sounds, or say diphthongs, or say organs of speech. So I would hold an attainment test, an achievement and progress test. Why? In order to see whether you have understood the material, okay, the lecture which had been delivered properly or not. And then we have another kinds of tests, and we call it the proficiency test. The proficiency test, yes. This type of test is more concerned with the present status of the candidate, regardless of the past courses. Attainment and achievement, or say progress test, judges your past attainment, means how much have you grasped, whereas this test judges the present status. It indicates a level of present ability in a prescribed subject or area. It tells that whether or not an individual is proficient enough to perform certain tasks or undertake a certain training program in a target language. So proficient, what does it mean? Proficient means skilled. Okay, it judges your proficiency, means how efficient you are, how competent you are, and it judges the present status, right? Are you able to handle the subject later on or not? And then you have another kind of test which is called as diagnostic test. Diagnostic test. This type of test does not test the learner's competence, capabilities, potentialities, and efficiency, but for the shortcomings of the learners. Shortcomings, that means errors. Okay, means the portion which the students have not clearly understood, the problem areas for that matter. It helps us in locating the areas where learner requires more concentrated teaching and study, so that remedial measures may be taken. Like suppose if you are committing errors in grammar, for example, prepositions are not suitably used by you, or say you are making wrong use of verbs, you do not have a very clear concept of grammar, means you don't understand concord, agreement between the subject and the verb. So a teacher get to know about your problem areas, about your weak points. How? By organizing a diagnostic test. And once he organizes a diagnostic test, he is aware of your weaknesses, your limitations, means where you need extra practice. Okay, then we have another kind of test. It is called as aptitude test. Aptitude test. This type of test is related with the future possibilities, natural abilities of the learner's potential in a subject area or activity. Sometimes I hold classes on spoken English also, and what do I do? I give my students certain topics, and they are asked to speak extempore. Sometimes they are in fact given 5 to 10 minutes to think over the topic, and then they come and select a piece of paper where the title is written, and they speak on the spot. So this way they get a practice of spoken English. and some of you started speaking very well. So it, we are clear about this, that you would not cut a sorry figure when it comes to speaking in public, or say when it comes to have a group discussion for that matter, which you have later on, or say you will not cut a sorry figure in your interview. So you are all going to say have a practical life of your own after a year or two after completing your PG, and those who wish to pursue their career in teaching, or say whether school teacher or say teachers in the university, so you may do MPhil or PhD also. So we are talking about the aptitude test. Yes. So I was telling you that this type of test is related with the future possibilities, natural abilities of the learner's potential in a subject area or activity. It predicts the probable success or failure in a certain kind of language. You're very good at Hindi, okay, since it happens to be your mother tongue and you all the time is speaking Hindi only. But as far as English is concerned, because it happens to be a foreign language, and since some of you come from the Hindi medium schools also, so you are not that proficient in English. So what do you need there? You need practice. And I have seen Hindi medium students doing very well. How do? They work very hard. Remember the story that hare and rabbit slow and study wins the race. So by practice, by working continually, you master over your weakness, and you are able to speak well, do well, even in this foreign language. So there is nothing to worry about. Now, say, what are the good characteristics? Means, what are the characteristics of a good test? If I talk about the characteristics of a test, a good test for that matter. So, can you tell me one or two? Generally speaking, we say that there are certain characteristics, and these characteristics must be kept in mind while a teacher is setting a paper for the test, or say for the examination for that matter. So I think I have also spoken about this. There are 5 points for the evaluation for language tests. What are they? Do you remember any point? Yes. Yes.
It should be valid.
It should be valid. Okay, good. It should be valid. Yes. And
It should be reliable.
it should be reliable. Very good. That's very nice. It should be valid. It should be reliable. It should be accessible. We just discussed a good test should be accessible. It should be economical, and it should be administrable. It should be administrable. So there are these 5 points, 5 things which a teacher should keep in mind while setting a question paper. A question paper should be valid. A good test should be valid. What does it mean? Valid, validity. What does it mean? It means, does the test measure what it is intended to measure? Does the test measure what it is intended to measure? Like if I want to measure your writing skills, then I should hold some test on compositional skills. For example, say letter writing, for example, essay writing, or say I can even give you a comprehension passage also, followed by the questions that are to be answered. And why do I need such a test? In order to test your compositional skills. Okay, so validity pertains to the kind of test whether they measure what they are supposed to measure, means whether they judge what they are supposed to judge. If they are, that means the tests are valid, they have validity. Validity is not general but specific, as I pointed out just. For example, a test of pronunciation measures pronunciation only and nothing else. Such a test would not be a valid test of grammar or vocabulary, because it does not test grammar or vocabulary, because of it being specific in its approach. So tests, are specific in their approach. For example, a test on vowels and consonant sounds that we had would judge only your pronunciation skills. But in examination, it's not so. You have all kind of questions there, because by the time our syllabus is over, and so you are asked all kinds of questions. So this is the difference between test and examination. So first point was a test should be valid, and number two, a test should be reliable. Okay, reliable means there should be consistency in performance. It means that does the test yield the same score one day and the next day? That is, does the test yield dependable score? If it does, it is a reliable test. So test should be reliable. The question paper should be such that it gives reliable result. Okay, and then the next characteristic of a good test is that a test should be accessible. Now this pertains to marking and answer sheet. It means if a test can be scored with ease so that the users may be able to handle it. Subjective type tests are not easy to score. For an examiner can be too liberal and too strict at different times as per the change in his moods. I remember, my students keep coming to me, so, I had done my paper very well and I got only 65. Although, he had not done well and he has got 68. So students, keep complaining. This happens, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be telling you, but this happens because of the mood of the examiner. Although the mood of the examiner should be, consistent. It shouldn't change. But to a human being, the subjective tests are that way are not easy to score. For examiner can be too liberal and too strict at different times as per the change in his moods. Whereas objective type tests are easy to score as they are not affected by the change in moods of the examiners. And that is why you must have seen, my dear students, that when I hold test, I mean the test at the end of the month, towards the end of the month, usually on the last Monday, I conduct a test after completing a fixed portion or a specific portion there in my classroom. So what do? I have portion on MCQs as well as on long answer type questions, or say short answer type questions. So it is a kind of mixture of subjective as well as objective type. That way, you do not have much complaints from the students. Why has he got say 65% marks and why have I got only 62? So this isn't there. Yeah. And next, this is also very important. A good test should be economical. Means this is also a very important characteristic of a good test, that it should be economical. It means using the minimum of time or resource necessary for effectiveness. For example, I do not have gadgets here. Suppose I do not have audiovisual aids. I do not have a smart board there in my classroom, and then I cannot, since I do not have the access to these gadgets, so I cannot hold a class on the pronunciation skills. Pronunciation skills in the sense that I show you a picture, say a clip of a movie, and then ask you, okay, write your impression about it. Or since I do not have, then what do? Instead, I show it, say that movie clip there on my mobile, and then I ask you. But that's not a good thing. So I should have proper gadgets. So what is important? That a test should be economical. It means, I repeat, that the test uses the minimum of time or resource necessary for effectiveness. It is a practical criterion, of course. Does the test measure what we want to test in a reasonable and given time, considering the testing situation? Okay. If it does, the test is practical and economical. Now, the last characteristic of a good test is administrable. Administrable, yes. Can the test be held under the condition that prevail and by the persons that are available? For example, in any test, electronic gadgets are required. Do we have access to them or not? We still have to see if the available persons can make use of electronic gadgets suitably or not. Suppose, like I want to show you a movie and I do have a gadget, but I don't know how to operate the system, then it won't be like feasible for me to like make you a promise, well, I'm gonna show you a movie. So the college or the university should provide the technical staff for that purpose, or I should be trained to show you a movie there on the gadgets which are available in the university or say in your college. Thus, we may say that testing relates to a multitude of factors which concern both the quality of teaching given and the learning achieved. So I repeat, we started with the statement, and that was in fact the topic statement of my lecture. I would say that teaching and testing are inseparable, means they are interlinked. Testing is totally based on teaching. They cannot be separated. They are interlinked. Okay. Thank you so much.